Welcome back to Monster Tamer, a 2D Pokemon-like RPG created Phaser 3. Previously, we worked on updating our battle scene to handle when our monsters get knocked out and allowing the player to switch to another monster. If you missed the previous videos, there'll be links in the video description to the source code up to this point, as well as the complete source code for this video. There'll also be a link to the previous videos if you'd like to catch up. So let's get started. So now that we finished updating our battle scene to handle when a player's monster gets knocked out, and then given the player an ability to switch to another active monster, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to work on updating our UI to have a new container that's going to show icons that represent the active monsters that a player can use from their party. And so for this change, we're going to go ahead and make use of the assets we previously loaded. And so we're going to make use of this Cosmo Ball PNG file. And so for each monster in our party, we're going to render out one of these images. And if the monster is active and available, we'll see the full ball. And if the monster is knocked out, then it'll be transparent. And so to get started these changes, let's go over to our battle scene class. And what we're going to do is we're going to add a new property to create a brand new container that's going to house our new image game objects that we create. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this property here. We're going to go ahead and paste it. And so for our new property name, we're going to go ahead and call this available monsters UI container. And for our type, this is going to be a phaser game objects container. And so for our new container, what we'll do is we'll come down to our create method. And after we create our attack manager, we'll go ahead and create our new container. So to do this, we're going to go ahead and call a brand new private method that we'll go ahead and create. And so we'll do create available monsters UI. And then what we'll do is we'll jump down to the bottom of our class. And let's go ahead and create that new method. All right, so in our new method, the first thing to do is we'll go ahead and create our new phaser container. So let's go ahead and do this. We'll do our available monsters UI container. Will be equal to this.add.container, and this will create a new container game object. All right, so for our positioning, what we want to do is we want to position our container over here on the right-hand side of our screen. And so to do that, we'll go ahead and use our scale property to go ahead and grab our width to know how big our scene is. And then we're going to go ahead and subtract 24. And so that's just going to position our game object a little bit over here to the side. And then what we'll go ahead and do is for our Y value, we're going to do 304. Then that way it's going to be right above where our monster's name is. And then what we'll do is we're just going to add an empty array for our children since we have no game objects for it right now. All right, so now what we'll want to do is we want to go ahead and create an image icon for each of the monsters in our party. So to go ahead and do that, we'll go ahead and loop through our data. So we're going to do our scene data. We're going to grab our player monsters. And then for each of our monsters, we'll also use the index. What we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to go ahead and create an image game object. So what we'll do is we'll do const, we'll do ball, it's going to be equal to this.add.image. And then for our position, we're going to go ahead and use 30, and we're going to multiply it by our index, but we're going to do it by the negative instance of our index. And so what that's going to do is as we add game objects, we're going to start shifting them over to the left for each new one we add. So for our first monster, we'll have a ball icon about right here. Our next one will shift over 30 pixels and be about right there. So then for our Y value, we'll go ahead and do 0, and we'll just let our container be our main positioning for this element. So then for our assets, we're going to go ahead and use our battle asset keys, and we're going to go ahead and grab our ball thumbnail. And we'll go ahead and do 0 for our frame. And then what we'll want to do is we'll go ahead and add this to our container. So we'll go ahead and reference our available monsters UI container, and we'll use the add method to go ahead and add our game object. So now if we go ahead and save, we should see right away in our scene, we have 3 new icons appear in our scene. And so what we're going to want to do is if one of our monsters is knocked out, we're going to want to go ahead and have that ball icon be a little bit opaque. And so right now, if we take a look at our party, we'll see that Iguanagonite is knocked out and our 2 other monsters are available to fight. So what we want to do is when we're looping through our party, we want to check our monster's HP and then modify our opacity, our alpha, accordingly. So go ahead and do this. We're going to make a new variable to store our alpha. So we're going to do const, we're going to do alpha. It's going to be equal to our monster.current HP. We want to check to see if the HP is greater than 0. If it is greater than 0, then we want to go ahead and do 1. Otherwise, we're going to go ahead and do 0.4 if they are not active. So then what we can do is we can go ahead and call our set alpha method, and we're going to go ahead and set this to our alpha, and we'll go ahead and save. So now when our scene reappears, we'll see our first ball is now a little bit opaque, and our other ones are solid. And so real quick, one other change we're going to do is we're going to make our ball icons a little bit smaller just so they're not so big on our screen, and also give it some spacing. So we're going to do set scale, And what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to go ahead and scale it to 0.8 just so they're a little bit smaller. All right, much better. All right, so the next thing we want to do is when our scene starts, we don't want this to be visible until we already have our monster's health bar up here. So to go ahead and do that, we're just going to go ahead and hide our container in our method here. So we'll do our available monster UI container. We're going to call set alpha, and we're going to go ahead and set it to 0. So now what we'll want to do is we'll come to our logic where we bring out our monster and where we have our monster's health bar up here. So what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to go ahead and update our callback. So then that way, after the health bar is finished appearing, we're going to go ahead and show our UI. And so we'll go ahead and reference our available monsters UI container. We're going to call it set alpha. And then what we'll go ahead and do is we'll go ahead and set that to 1. So now when our scene starts, we should see our monster, and then our monster should appear, our health bar appears, and so now we can see our container. All right, so one more change we're going to go ahead and make for our container is we need to handle when our player gets knocked out during a battle. And so when our player gets knocked out, what we'll want to do is we'll want to go ahead and update our icon to reflect that. And so what we're going to do is we're going to come up to our post-battle sequence check method. And we'll come down to where we check if our player is fainted. All right, so what we're going to go ahead and do here is after we play our death animation, we need to grab the game object that is associated with the monster that's currently out in battle. Luckily, we can do this pretty easily because since we base these objects based on our party order, what we can do is we can use our active party monsters index to grab the element from our container based on that index. Because the container maintains the order of when we add objects to it. And so in order to do that, we just need to go ahead and reference our container. And so we're going to go ahead and do this. We're going to go ahead and do our available monsters UI container. And we're going to use the get at method to go ahead and grab a specific element based on its index. And so we'll use our active player monster party index. And then what we'll want to do is we're going to use the set alpha method to go ahead and update our alpha to be opaque. And so I'm just going to go ahead and set that to 0.4. And then real quick, for our telesense, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and add our type for what this is. And so for our type, this is going to go ahead and be our phaser, our game objects, and it's going to be an image game object. All right, so let's go ahead and test our changes. What I'm going to do is I'm going to jump over to our monsters JSON file. And I'm going to go ahead and give Iguanodite 5 HP real quick. And then we'll jump over to our preload scene. Let's jump into our title scene. And then what we'll do is let's do a new game. We'll go ahead and save our data. Let's go ahead and revert back to our battle scene and we'll go ahead and test. So now what should happen is we'll see our 3 icons tied to the monsters in our party. If we go ahead and fight, Iguanodite should get knocked out. And we'll see right away we update our ball to reflect that index that's been updated. And so just to make sure it works with other party members, what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to revert our HP back for Iguanodite back to 0. And then for Ignivolt, I'm going to go ahead and update our current HP to be 5. Go ahead and save. And then we'll go ahead and start a new game real quick. All right, so go ahead and test what we'll go ahead and do. So Iguanodite's already knocked out, so we have 0 HP. I'm going to go ahead and switch to Ignivolt. And so we see we have our OK monster gets knocked out. And now we only have 1 monster left. And so we bring out our monster. And so we'll see we only have the 1 monster left and it gets brought out. All right, so what we'll go ahead and do is we'll come back to our monsters JSON file and I'm going to go ahead and revert our changes. So then back in our preload scene, I'm going to go ahead and switch this back to our title scene. So we'll go ahead and revert that change. All right, with that brings this video to an end. In our next video, we're going to start working on updating our monster party scene to allow us to move monsters around in our party and allow us to release monsters back into the wild. So as a reminder, there's a link in the description of the video to the source code for this video. And as always, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the content. If you did enjoy the video, please consider liking the video and hitting the bell icon to be notified when the next video in the series is released. For more great Phaser 3 content, please see the links on your screen now.